is Joy News Prime.
Hello, good evening. This is Joy News Prime, your comprehensive 2-hour prime time news. In the headlines, European Union announces Ghana will no longer benefit from direct aid from the Union. And this is intended to ensure aid received by Ghana is tailor-made for maximum benefit. Progressive People's Party files injunction over EC filing fees for presidential and parliamentary candidates barely 2 days to the deadline set by the Commission for candidates to file their nominations. We'll hear from some of the parties. Judges in the country are demanding a review of their remunerations and conditions of service.
Coming up in business, Ghana Statistical Service says GDP estimates for Q2 this year slows down to 2.5%.
And later in the bulletin, we will bring you the story of 1,000 voices explaining how poverty and lack of opportunities in the slum pushed him into living the life of crime. Details of these plus sports, entertainment, Joy News Interactive and international news coming up. This bulletin is also available on ABN television across Europe, DSTV and GoTV. Stay with us. In our first story, Ghana will no longer benefit from direct aid from the European Union. The announcement made by the EU ambassador to Ghana, William Hanna, is to ensure aid received by the country is tailor-made for maximum benefit. At a media interaction, Mr. Hanna explained the new plan will protect as well as increase investments.
We've been working with Ghana for 40 years of cooperation. But I think if you look at the future, we will be perhaps doing less of direct aid in the old-fashioned project way and more looking at trade and investment. If you read the new plan that was launched a couple of weeks ago, it's a different approach to addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. It's saying what countries need is investment and jobs. It's a real focus on that area. And that, I think, will be more our focus, and I think that's good for Ghana, because I mean Ghana has made a lot of progress over the last few years, attaining middle income status, doing well. But sometimes if you do that, you might lose out. I think the new programs we're preparing, trade and investment, are tailor-made for Ghana. They will, for example, there's a guarantee fund that links up small and medium-sized enterprises and loans, and that's a whole area where there's a lot of scope. We're already doing it. Our European Investment Bank is already lending to banks in Ghana for on-lending to small and medium-sized enterprises. That could be scaled up. So I see us maybe working more with the private sector, more with banks, more with investment, more with that area, and a little bit away from the more traditional aid approach, which has served its time.
Now, in July this year, Ghana signed the Interim Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. The agreement, which allows businesses and industries in Ghana to export to the EU market without paying duties, is a welcoming one for exporters but not importers. This has caused worry for many civil society groups who believe Ghana will eventually lose out. William Hanna, however, believes Ghana must rather take advantage of the agreement. These are his reasons.
It protects the investments and the jobs and the market access that Ghana already has. I mean, we've done a calculation. There are at least 100,000 jobs that depend on that export market. So through signing and ratifying the interim agreement, Ghana has protected all those jobs. And they're in lots of sectors, particularly in agriculture. So it protects that market access for now and for the future. And all those companies can now increase their investments and their jobs because they know they've got a market for the product in the end. So very important to protect what you have, but also to create for the future. What I'd say is Ghana is not competing with the European Union. Ghana is competing on our markets with other countries like Cote d'Ivoire next door, or like Ecuador, or other countries that produce the same products are also trying to export to our market. So by having the Economic Partnership Agreement, and it's the best agreement you can have. It's duty-free access for all goods, what you're producing today, but also what you might produce in the future, including manufactured goods. All that access, no other country in the world gives that. The European Union provides that, and it allows Ghana to compete with other countries on that market. Then when you look at inside Ghana itself, people are afraid that perhaps Europe might flood the market. Well, I really don't see that happening. At the moment, Ghana exports much more to Europe than it imports. And if you look at what it imports, it's importing in machinery, in heavy goods, in equipment that cannot be manufactured at the moment in Ghana. Also, in the negotiations, the negotiators for Ghana said, look, we have a whole series of sectors here that we'd like to protect. You know, we think that we need to protect these industries. There's a long list. It includes chicken, it includes lots of products, it includes even beer. All those areas are not liberalized. There's a long list, they're not liberalized. So the government has been able to protect those. And there are also measures inside the agreement, which takes place over a long time, to ensure that there wouldn't be dumping. So I know that no agreement in itself is going to change anything. You have to, it's an opportunity that is the best type of agreement that the European Union offers to any countries.
The Minister of Education says government's investment in education over the years is beginning to yield results in the form of improvement in the performance of students in WASSCE and BECE. Speaking at the launch of the 2016 Best Teacher Awards, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman said despite the success, more needs to be done to improve upon the performance of the students. Joy News' Joseph Akaple has more in the following report.
This year's award is on the theme, quote, valuing teachers, improving their status, unquote. The award ceremony, which is slated to come off in a week, will seek to reward teachers as well as schools that have excelled in a year under review. Speaking at the event, Minister of Education, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman said the recent improvement in performance of students at the basic and secondary level was as a result of investment in the sector over the years.
From 2013-14 to date, through the Ministry of Education, government has invested a lot to enhance the skills of teachers in order to impact quality education delivery. And I'm happy to say that the efforts have started yielding results in the improved BECE, we've seen them, and the WASSCE results of this year. Yes, we know we have a long way to go, but we feel encouraged that the strategies are beginning to bear fruit. And for some of us, they are bearing fruit a little too soon. I expected the fruit to have come much later. The proportion of students who scored A1 to 6 in integrated science, for example, increased from 23.2% in 2015 to 48.5% in 2016. Likewise, the proportion of students who scored A1 to C6 in core mathematics increased from 25% in 2015 to 32.8% in 2016.
Professor Opoku-Agyeman also charged teachers to work hard to improve upon their performance and image.
We launched the Best Teacher Awards this year, and as I do so, please allow me to call on all of us, the teachers, the parents, the community, non-teaching staff, to reflect on their roles, but especially so for teachers, since they are ones we are isolating for celebration, to reflect on their roles and responsibilities as both government and sponsors continue to make the right investments towards improving the image of the teacher. But definitely, the only one who can improve the image of the teacher is the teacher him or herself.
This year's awards will be held in the Brong-Ahafo regional capital, Sunyani.
Let's go to the Ashanti region now. Members of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly have set Friday to choose between two fresh candidates for the presiding member position after two main contenders officially stepped down on Tuesday. Fresh nominations and a voting day marked by verbal and physical exchanges saw Abraham Bwedi, member for Ridge in Shiaiso electoral area, and Michael Edusebunsu, member for Dade Swaba electoral area, replacing Nana Kofi Senaya and Edumhene. Although Regional Minister Alexander Okon is positive Friday will end months of deadlock, some Assembly members say the new names are still divided along the same political lines. Love FM's Erastus Asare Donko reports.
After several unsuccessful elections, immediate past presiding member of the KMA, Nana Kufi-Senya, and Adumhene Bafo Ajekase finally stepped out of the presiding member race. Rage Nshaeso, assembly member from the camp of Nana Senya, and Dadieso Aba assembly member Michael Adusei, considered favorite of government appointees, were nominated. After a day of voting marked by verbal and physical exchanges, Abraham Wedi polled 65 against 59 by Michael Adusei, but both failed to secure 2/3 to occupy the vacant position. Some members think Friday will not be different unless the rules are changed.
When Kujobonsu left, they were still thinking that he's still pulling strings behind the scenes, and for that matter, now he has given the support rather to Honorable Adusei. So all those behind Kufi-Senya are still the same people who have also surfaced behind Honorable Abraham Wedi, popularly known as Opoman. And as we all know, so in effect, it is the same battle that is going on. Both of them should step down for neutral people at the floor of the assembly to come forward.
Something needs to be changed. We should talk to Nadusei because Opoman has now lead the house. So we should compromise and we should put Opoman as a presiding member.
But Regional Minister Alexander Okon is optimistic Kumasi will have a presiding member on Friday.
I still maintain that we can cross the bridge. Oh, definitely we should come out here with a presiding member. If you have sensed them, you realize that the desire to get a presiding member is high, and the reality of our situation has been made known to them. And
reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asare Donko, Love FM, Kumasi.
You're watching Joy News Prime. You're taking a short break. Still ahead, Progressive People's Party files injunction over EC filing fees for presidential and parliamentary candidates. Barely 2 days to the deadline to file their nominations. We will hear from some of the parties. Don't go away. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Now, it's barely 2 days to the deadline set by the Electoral Commission for presidential and parliamentary aspirants of the various political parties to file their nominations. The announcement by the Commission pegging filing fees for presidential aspirants at 50,000 Ghana cedis and 10,000 Ghana cedis for parliamentary aspirants drew several protests, especially from the smaller political parties. They argue it's a ploy to disqualify them from contesting in the upcoming December 7 elections. But the EC has rejected that claim. Well, the Progressive People's Party, which sued the Commission over the fees, have described them as arbitrary, capricious and unreasonable. On Wednesday, the party filed an injunction asking the court to prevent the EC from collecting and or receiving the deposits or fees. Earlier, I spoke with policy advisor of the PPP, Kofi Asamoah, on the suit.
Information that we are picking from our lawyers is that the EC has entered appearance. What we don't know is whether they filed a statement of defense. We got to know of this information because we haven't heard from the EC and the court had not fixed a date for hearing. We were going to have our case injured if we didn't file an injunction application. So I can confirm to you now that our lawyers have filed an injunction application on the acceptance of deposit or filing fees by the Electoral Commission tomorrow. And if the lawyers of the EC, I have been made to understand, Stadia Sorry chambers, they will be served in any moment from now in their offices in this Legon. So that is what we have come to know as we speak, because they are the lawyers who entered appearance on behalf of the Electoral Commission. So yes, we have filed an injunction, and we think that it is proper for the Electoral Commission to wait until the matter is disposed of and addressed by the court before any parliamentary candidate or presidential candidate will be obliged or required to pay any filing fees so determined by the court. But we are confident in the case that we have filed that there is no legal basis for the Electoral Commission to charge any amount that it wants to charge, because we are of the opinion that the monies that are to be charged must come in under a certain regulation stipulated and not made it arbitrary and capricious, especially in this particular matter where the EC has increased the fee by 1,000%. The EC should be aware or is aware that any action it takes as far as its calendar is concerned must be in conformity with the law.
Policy advisor of the PPP, Kofi Asamoah, and he indicated that the suit won't necessarily affect the filing process itself. But what is the readiness of the parties to meet the EC's deadline? Joining us on the line is Mohammed Frimpong. He's with the NDP, that's the National Democratic Party. Good evening to you.
Hello, good evening.
Yes. So 4 years ago, your flag bearer, Mrs. Kunedu Rawlings, was disqualified because the EC claimed she didn't satisfy all the requirements that she needed to. Would you say your party is ready to file nominations by Friday, by close of the deadline?
Yes, certainly we are ready. We are ready to file nominations on Thursday, which is tomorrow.
I see. So you're telling me that all your parliamentary aspirants have satisfied the processes and they're ready to file?
Yeah, we are ready to do the filing on the stipulated dates, 29th and 30th, all throughout the country.
So what about the cost? You know, some of the other parties raised issues with the cost, especially for the presidential, which is 50,000 cedis. The parliamentary, it's 10,000 cedis. They're expected to pay 10,000 cedis. Are all your aspirants able to raise that money?
We have already stated our case very well. We sent a letter of protest to the EC, and we have also made our case, in the media space. The issue is that, one, if you look at the setting of the filing fee from 1,000 to 10,000, 2012 and 2016, for us, it's a very serious indictment on the management of the economy. The EC is, in other words, telling the entire nation that the economy has so much deteriorated that 1,000 CD value in 2012 should be equivalent of 10,000 in 2016. This is a very serious matter, and I think the president and his government must take a very serious view of it. And that is one. Apart from that, it also obstructs the choice of the people in choosing a fair representation. We are now being gagged virtually, particularly we so-called smaller parties. The nation is being limited in its choice of getting what I call fair representatives, in government and in parliament.
Mr. Frimpong, I imagine that you would lend your support to this legal action or the suit brought forward by the Progressive People's Party.
Well, we even if we have not done so by throwing our weight, behind the suit, we have indicated that yes, we do not agree to the level that the EC had set up its filing fees. We have done so over and over, except that probably our friends in the PPP had made an appropriate move, which we are in agreement with. We are not at all opposed to it. And why not? You need somebody to also rise and say that go to a higher level in pursuing the matter in court. We didn't want to do so for several reasons, but it doesn't matter. it doesn't also mean that we were very comfortable and probably having too much resources. That is not the case. After all, if they hadn't done so, we were thinking of filing more candidates. But in this process, we are limited in the number of parliamentary candidates that we want to file. It's a national affair, and anybody raising the issue meets what I call the expectation of all. So that's why we share. At least the move made by the PPP.
Very much. That's Mohammed Frimpong. He's General Secretary of the NDP, that's the National Democratic Party. And speaking of the PPP, flag bearer of that party has told the people of German North in the Bono-Ahafo region that unlike his competitors making numerous promises to provide jobs, he already has a visible work on the ground providing jobs for Ghanaians. He asked the people of German North to see him as one who, elected, has what it takes to provide factories that will employ them. Dr. Indum said this after introducing the PPP parliamentary candidate for German North, Nswat Joseph, on the second day of his campaign tour of the Bono-Ahafo region.
22 and our commander at Negua Fabrim. Our honor. Yimpa way, what am I? One out where a professor permanent workers and where are Hanan, no honor. And I want to there
are 22 permanent workers at the commanded Negua Brim constituency and more than 1,000 contract workers doing various jobs in the constituency. We have also put up different facilities over there. This is the kind of development we want to have across Ghana.
Mama pera meka chonye de za yetum be yetum yaye ho no ono bi ene ye pede Ghana ni be bia eboko na factory ni bi e wo ho na sports stadium wo ho school no wo ho ama obia wenye bi.
Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North constituency in the Eastern Region, Gifty Chum Ampofo, is finding it difficult to understand the actions of the ruling National Democratic Congress in recent times. The MPP MP says the NDC is behaving strangely in their bid to run down policies and proposals being trumpeted by the MPP, and in their effort confusing many Ghanaians. Mrs. Gifty Chum Ampofo says the NDC had earlier told Ghanaians that the one district, one factory, one village, one dam policies being proposed by the MPP are not feasible, but have all of a sudden turned around to tell Ghanaians that they are already executing these projects. She was speaking to Joy News after her campaign launch at Achim Osiem.
When Nana Adudankwa Ekuf mentioned one district, one factory, our friends at the other side said it's impossible. So it's strange for us to hear them saying that they're doing that already. And if they're doing that, where is the evidence? The president went to Kumasi to say that he is reopening the shoe factory. Or call your counterparts at media houses in Kumasi and find out how many people are working at Kumasi shoe factory. How many of them? They are less than 10. He also promised that, President promised that the factory is going to supply all the boots from the security services. How many security service men and women have taken their footwears from Kumasi shoe factory?
According to the MP, the NDC's modus operandi is to impoverish the majority of Ghanaians and keep them in the dark for their advantage. She questioned whether the NDC has implemented the free secondary education they promised this academic year.
They are not interested in educating the people. They always want to keep the people in darkness so that anything they say, they will stop. Now, they have given us the approved SHS school fees, which day students are about 400 Ghana cedis. If it's free, why do you bring approved school fees? If something is free, do you pay fees? So everything they do, it's about throwing dust into the eyes of the innocent. We want to give free education, free SHS, free JHS, free primary school, free preschool. They also are supposed to be free, but they're not free. We're going to make sure that they are absolutely free. We have done some before. The free maternal care, it was absolutely free for everybody who decides to get pregnant. We wouldn't ask for, where do you live? Where is your husband? Who impregnated you? No. Once you are pregnant and you are tested positive, the health care is free. That is what we want for Ghana.
We're staying with the MPP because the national youth organizer of the party, Sami Ewuku, has lashed out at the Mahama-led administration for bequeathing to Ghanaians untold hardship. He said the youth of the country are unhappy and disillusioned because of the bad policies of the government, which has failed to create jobs. He called on Ghanaians to vote massively for the MPP to change the fortunes of the country. Sami Ewuku made the call at a meeting with students of the WA campus of the University for Development Studies. Rafiq Salam reports.
Message of the new Patriotic Party National Youth Organizer Sami Ewuku to the party's faithful at the WA campus of the University for Development Studies residing at Bamaho, except and that the National Democratic Congress (NDC) is only bringing the clock of progress of the country backwards. He buttressed his argument by juxtaposing economic figures and the numerous social intervention programs brought by the Kufuor administration, which he said has changed the lives of the people positively, as against President Mahama, who only quadrupled the hardship on the Ghanaian people.
Under the MPP, teacher trainees across the country, over 40,000 of them were taking Alawa. Over 30,000 nursing training students were also taking Alawa. Thanks to the limping government of Mahama and Emisata, they've cancelled them. Under the MPP, with 400 Ghana cedis, 4 million old cedis, your child could get access to a teacher training or nursing training. Today, you need 4,848 million before you can attempt to enter nursing training or teacher training. On the campus of University of Development Studies, the school fees you are paying, the hostel fees you are paying, boys are bread, girls are bread.
He said the government was on the verge of losing power, and that explained the reason why they have tried to use what he called inferior communist tactics, adding that it will not save them. He, however, assured the people of the country that all is not lost yet, and called on Ghanaians to vote massively for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to bring the country on the right track.
The youth of our country are disillusioned, disoriented, dispirited, but we have hope. In the midst of all this, I bring you hope. Which is concomitantly related. The hope is that in 2017, you will have a government that will restore the teacher training allowance. You have a government that will restore the nursing training allowance. You have a government that will make your national health insurance work. And you have a government that will transform your vision into reality. You also have a government that is going to build factories in every district for the youth of our country to have work to do.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, Supreme Court Judge Justice William Atuguba is calling for improvement in salary and working conditions of the country's judges and magistrates, and warns the current situation has the potential of undermining the maintenance of the rule of law and confidence in the justice system. Addressing the annual Magistrates and Judges Conference, Justice Atuguba called on the Judicial Council to engage the committee working on emoluments of the Article 71 holders to design a special salary structure for the bench. Whilst admitting improvement in the conditions of judges over the years, he said it is still not enough.
The judicial office is the most exacting and onerous of all the professions. Any objective attempt at the verification of this assertion by anyone will lead to its biometric accuracy. The sheer volume of litigation, the varied complex and legal issues involved in almost every case, and the range of research these entail are probably unknown to the public. Working under such conditions is particularly stressful against a background of poor remuneration and other working conditions. In its outburst at the aforementioned 1988 annual conference of the Bar Association, Itala Ajete forcefully stated as follows, quote, "The conditions of service of judges in this country are simply a disgrace. It is generally felt that judges do not receive a living wage and that their salaries are inadequate to enable them to live in dignity and to maintain their families as they should. While conditions of service on the bench have comparatively improved over the years, they have not been radical enough. In short, it is time, and I'm glad to note that the bench in recent times has become more proactive in seeking its legitimate welfare by engaging the executive on issues such as the late payments of our few entitlements. I call on the Bar, the Judicial Council, and the bench to coordinate their efforts and engage the Article 71 committees and other relevant authorities to press for recognition of and response to the fact that the bench has a unique and pivotal role to play in this country, and its conditions of service must correspondingly be unique and should not be considered in common with any generalized policy on pay structure or the like. In this connection, I call for the restoration of an enhanced leave allowance, substantial entertainment allowance, a handsome allowance to compensate for loss of private professional practice, as is enjoyed by doctors, teachers, and others.
Well, Justice Atuguba also called on the Ghana Bar Association to stand up against corrupt members in their ranks.
Before the announced expose, the cry against corruption in the judiciary had long rang out. At the annual conference of the Ghana Bar Association in 1988, the then national president of the Ghana Bar Association, Mr. Peter Alajete, in his speech, referred to corruption on the bench in very strong and prophetic terms. And this attracted wide publicity in both the local and the world press, including the BBC. This allegation kept on ringing in the country unceasingly, in varying degrees. It was communist error to have regarded it as a mere perception. Since, as strongly stressed by our colossal brother, Dr. Databaji S.C., retired in his book, Reflections on the Supreme Court of Ghana, page 201, the indubitable impartiality of the judiciary must obtain, even in the perception and conviction of the public. Preemptive action must be initiated by all to feed the Chief Justice with leads to stem the tide from its inception. In this regard, the Bar Association, members of the bench, the court staff, and the general public must hint the Chief Justice of such tendencies, even by way of perception on the part of persons on the bench or associated with the bench. The Bar Association must not play the ostrich in this regard concerning their own members. It is better for a person on the bench to be wrongly perceived as antisocial than to be correctly perceived to be corrupt.
Now, with less than 70 days to the polls, political parties may have presented their manifestos in a bid to convince the electorate to vote for them in election 2016. But some women groups are not satisfied. According to them, their issues have not received enough attention. Abantu for Development is seeking to highlight this with its scorecard. The scorecard is to serve as a tracking tool to evaluate political party practices for accountability and gender responsiveness. As you know, Abantu for Development engages in advocacy around women's increased participation in politics and decision making, and it announced the initiative today. Matilda Vomega has more.
Women constitute the majority of Ghana's population. The 2010 Population and Housing Census reports that women forms 51.2% of the total population. In spite of being the majority, women remain underrepresented in all national policy and decision-making process. The abysmal representation of women in all decision-making spaces is most evident in Parliament and local assembly level. Currently, out of the 275 members of Parliament, only 30 are women. According to Abantu for Development, these critical gaps and challenges hinder women's equal participation and leadership at decision-making levels towards gender parity.
We felt that political parties play a very important role because they are the ones who form a government. And in Ghana, when they form a government, they rule for 4 years. So shouldn't we begin to look at the political parties and see whether or not they are doing something to really move the agenda of women forward? And so what we have done now is actually to capture in a very simple way the kinds of things that the various political parties have done for women.
The gender performance card will also assess the performance of gender equality of political parties with representation in Parliament.
It's not necessarily because it's an election year, but we are going to monitor over 4 years, over 8 years, and come out with scorecards again. So if they fail us, the women are going to come together and march against and make demands. It's about making demands. It's about dialoguing.
Some women present at the event justified why women must be given attention in politics and governance.
It starts from home. You know, our socialization has made it that it is men and men world. The men are dominion. Okay, so it is not as if women are not ready for the positions or they are not interested, but then it is the way we are socialized. That is why most women are not in the limelight.
Women have the power. We can change our communities for the better. So we can start by giving children role models, ask how to go higher, and the girls also can encourage themselves by taking up leadership roles in school and their communities and other places.
Most of those are women. We have to encourage a woman if she wants to do something. We have to make sure to encourage the woman to do it. But most of us women, the moment we see one of our women in the leadership position, then we start talking about it. Oh, why is she? Then you see people were spitting their face. That's not fair. With even the political party the person belongs to, if he's doing the right thing, we have to follow up what the person is doing. That's what we have to do as a woman.
The project forms part of a Star Ghana initiative themed promoting gender responsiveness and peace in election 2016 for equality and democratic governance.
International news is up next, but still to come later in the bulletin, we'll bring you the story of a man popularly known as 1,000 Voices, who explains how poverty and lack of opportunities in the slum pushed him into living a life of crime. Stay with us for the details. Let's take a look at the headlines at this hour. European Union announces Ghana will no longer benefit from direct aid from the Union, and this is intended to ensure aid received by Ghana is tailor-made for maximum benefit. Progressive People's Party files injunction over EC filing fees for presidential and parliamentary candidates barely 2 days to the deadline to file their nominations. Judges in the country are demanding a review of their remunerations and conditions of service. In business, Ghana Statistical Service says GDP estimates for Q2 this year slows down by 2.5%. Now, global fish production is nearing unsustainable levels as about 90% of the world's stock is depleted due to overfishing. That's according to the 2016 Food and Agriculture Report, which estimates a 17% increase in production to meet demand by the world's growing population by 2025. How is Ghana faring in this development? Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin finds out in the following report.
For the first time, global per capita fish consumption has risen to about 20 kilograms a year. In Ghana, it is about 25 kilograms.
Fish contributes 60% of our protein intake, and Ghanaians, we consume about 25 kilos of fish a year. Fish gives us a lot of vitamins, and the fishery sector contributes about 5.5% to agricultural GDP. And we also export fish, and the fishery products that we export from marine, from aquaculture is over $500 million.
Fish contributes to food security in many regions of the world, providing a valuable supplement for diversified and nutritious diet. While global exports amounted to $148 billion in 2014, Ghana is spending about $150 million annually to import fish to make up for the shortfall of 430,000 metric tons.
In Ghana, we consume almost 980,000 metric tons of fish. Nana, we produce only 450,000 metric tons. So, Nana, you know there's a deficit, and we can solve the problem of the deficit through aquaculture.
We are making progress. Hitherto, most of the fisheries have been limited or development in what we call capture fisheries. Capture fisheries means that you are catching from the wild, from the seas, from the rivers, and what. Now, all these fish from those rivers have reached what we call their carrying capacity. We don't expect any significant catch from them. So it means we need to manage them, and we manage them by putting into place regulations.
Of the world's top 30 fish consuming nations, 22 are in the United Nations low-income food deficit category. 12% of the world's population now relies directly or indirectly in the fishery industry. Well, how about Ghana?
This sector employs about 2.5 million people of Ghana, representing about 10% of our population.
The success of the aquaculture production industry in Ghana is dependent on quality and availability of fish feed. The pilot aquaculture center was established to provide fingerlings for fish farmers in the northern sector of the country.
The center here is to produce this tilapia fingerlings. What we are able to produce annually is about 4 million fingerlings that can supply the whole or the other part of the country.
A 2015 study from the World Wildlife Fund finds climate change is one of the main reasons for the decline of marine species in the last 30 years. These changes affect fisheries worldwide, but the impact is likely to be particularly damaging for fisheries in developing countries like Ghana.
But because during edut variance, we can lose about more than a million, and that one too, if the flood, it takes everything away, including our broodstock, our parent fish that we use in producing our fingerlings. So everything was taken away.
Ghana is making tremendous effort to produce 100,000 metric tons of fish by 2018. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
Now, the Global Monitoring Report released by the World Bank and International Monetary Fund in 2013 shows that while urbanization helps people to get out of poverty, it can also lead to the burgeoning growth of slums, crime and violence by extension. It's estimated that nearly 1/3 of the population of Greater Accra region live in slums. Here's the story of a young man nicknamed 1,000 Voices, who explains how poverty and lack of opportunities in the slum have pushed him into living the life of crime. 1,000 Voices reveals he could have been an accomplice to the murder of the late MP J.B. Dankwa Edu, but for his repentance. Here's more in a report filed by Favor Nonu.
Urban growth and increase in urban slum amounts to competition for limited job opportunities. Kokumba is one of such slums in the heart of Accra, offering shelter to thousands of migrants from all walks of life. This slum, however, has a reputation for hosting some of the most hardened criminals in the city. Meet Osman Moro, an ex-convict who served a 7-year jail term at the Insawa Maximum Prisons. Walking through the streets of Kokumba, one thing becomes clear. I encounter many young men who either work in decent jobs or are unemployed.
1Z alias Oluki.
Jimmy, on the other hand, is a budding talent in the movie industry and finds the stereotype against slum dwellers from Kokumba inappropriate.
Being in Konkoma here, Konkoma is like is being of help to a whole lot of people. You know, this place, like we hustle a lot, and it's not like all people around are thieves or, you know, still around us. But Accra system is very hard.
I meet a young man who calls himself 1,000 Voices.
Yo, this is 1,000 Voice. I open a new page. Look, man, I'm a real gangster. My swag so much, the flex too nice. I'm too strong. Call me the street president. T-Lad, Mainland, time was so large.
He claims he was friends with Daniel Asidu, the young man who confessed to murdering the late J.B. Dankwa Edu.
Daniel, I know him.
How many years you know Daniel?
Oh, I know Daniel keep long. I come Accra like 2008, yeah. And I come maybe he be the first friend I meet in Accra here. So I live with him like so many years. Where they can't catch him.
As they catch him, you shock say they catch him, or as they go operate, he mentioned give you say someone give me contract or something where they go town camp.
If it's so, they go town camp. No, me I can't stay in this wood. I need to do Medina. Sometimes I feel go in there and I need to they come out there. And why he come out there like 2 weeks we day, like the 3 weeks time we the wash. We so I go dry the thing I see say no, police can't arrest them. We later on they take and go where we go there where they go talk say if that moment we say we don't know, I don't know work with him. Everybody they go in mission, not together.
So as they catch him like that, where you hear say he be in kill him, how you feel like? I mean, someone you know say be your friend.
He's a good guy and he's a cool guy. If someone talks say the boy is a bad boy, he said you know believe. I will believe say you know only because of we no get sponsorship that is bring all of these things.
He blames the youth's involvement in crime on the high unemployment and lack of opportunities from the private sector. Voice in Bariba became very emotional at this point in our conversation, as he told me that he did not want to cry on camera. We paused for a while before we proceeded.
The situation we need to go on. That is why man I do this thing, all these things. Like it's like that, we can't do this. Why somebody go find things can put down and we go take it one day? But because of right now, if I get 10 cities, I feel chop on like 3 days. But I'm a big boy, you know. I have not. So, by Daniel, I pray for him.
He admits to having engaged in several crimes, including carjacking, but claims it's all in the past now, as he works as a tattoo artist.
You see the way I'm doing myself. If I'm working, everybody in this Accra here, everybody has seen me as a bad boy. I'm not a bad boy. See, I've been a bad boy before, but now I repent.
Giving your life to Christ or to Allah?
To Allah. Yeah. I say, don't condemn others, and God will not condemn you. That is chapter 7, verse 1. And God will not condemn you. And people like to go to heaven, but they don't want to die.
Okay, why Ecclesiastes on your chest?
Oh, because I know Nyakopon Bobia so mejine. But I need genuine so do and no one said, why you baby ever could do at time. So if you enjoy yourself, no, it's a judgment day. For real.
Some thousand voices, as he likes to call himself, the street president, had a message for the president of the Republic of Ghana.
The government always made to now you go watch me on tally, you go see how it's ghetto youth with the need. You know, my message to the president that the president for watchers go to and we get some place better to live. If you go build some house, give us for here, and you give us some works too for inside, everybody will get work, you know. Because see, without work, no everything. How a man will take choice.
What's the future like for you?
See, I know the be. Like I get sponsorship, I will do something with the people too go know say the youth. We are better, we are not a bad voice.
And then you have a cross on your stomach.
Oh, I'm praying in my heart. So even now, Seth, I'm praying in my heart because this one I have given is not my attention to do this. So I'm praying in my heart, you know. So I'm playing always. I'm keeping playing right now, Seth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So these are some of the challenges that the youth in Accra have to encounter. I'm here in Kokumba, where there are lots of youths, thousands of them, who make a living over here. They ask questions about what the state is doing about their situation, the fact that there's no social welfare system that comes in to intervene with respect to the challenges that they have to go through every day. Life really, he says, is difficult. Most of the young ladies in these areas have had to resort to prostitution. Meanwhile, they came to Accra with the interest of finding work, but the absence of work has created challenges for them and has made them to resort to all sorts of deviance. Their call is the government should just come in and assist them by way of creating the opportunities or the enabling environment for jobs to be available for them to work or for them to be able to create their own jobs. We're coming to you here from Kokumba in Accra. My name is Favor Nuno, reporting for Joy News.
Let's hope government hears their cries. We're taking a break now. We'll be back with entertainment news. Stay tuned.